Hi everyone, and welcome to today's lesson for beginners, continuing with the series How to Read Notes on the Piano. So if you've not watched my previous lesson where I talked about notes that are positioned on the lines, please go ahead and watch it because it serves as a fantastic preparation for what we're going to discuss today, which is notes in spaces or between the lines, and also directional reading. So after today's lesson, you should be able to manage notes in both clefs, separate hands. And next time I see you, we are going to combine those two hands together, and I'm going to show you really cool ways of practicing and figuring out how to actually do it. So I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. Get in touch with me if you have any questions, and let's go. Hi everyone, and thank you for joining this lesson. It's a continuation from my lesson 1 on how to read notes on the lines. And today we are going to talk about how to read notes that are in spaces. So if you were to play all the notes from the middle C upwards, that's what they will look like. And if you can note and see, all the notes go between lines and spaces. So line, space, line, space. And what if you were to try and figure out a single kind of note, if let's say it's a starting note in a song, or you have a big jump and you would want to know what note that is. Instead of memorizing all the notes like letters of the alphabet, which can be a bit challenging at first, there is an easier way of locating them on the piano. If you've not watched my lesson 1 on how to read notes on the lines, then please follow the link above and it will take you directly to that lesson. And because it just follows the same line method that I teach in the previous lesson, but now it's going to be slightly more modified. And actually in this lesson we are going to talk about both notes in spaces and how to read directionally, on the example of these two numbers, number 11 and number 12, of this music exercises. So let's have a look at number 11. A few things to note straight from the start. If you remember, we count lines going upwards in the right hand and we count the lines downwards in the left hand. So the first note is right above the second line. If you know how the lines, if you remember how the lines are structured on the piano, let's just recap on that. So this is the first line, second, third, fourth, and fifth, and it is related to the middle C. So the note that is above the second line, in order to find it, we have to jump twice and go above that line. So this is line number 1, line number 2, and above it, or halfway step, would be here. So this is an A. And now you know what the first note is, not just by its name, but exactly where to play it. One more time. So from the middle C, we had to go twice, 1 and 2, since it's above the second line and above is right here. So this is an A note. And actually, today, let's figure out the first 3 notes because they're all in spaces. If we were to look at them as single notes, and then I will show you how to actually read them directionally and how your mind should be thinking and working its way through the notes. So the second note is above the first line. And again, this is the first line from the middle C, and above it is here. And this is an F note. So if you remember, the first note was A, the second note is now F. A different way of playing it or seeing it would be from A, how many steps down did we have to go? You can see the direction of the notes, we're going down, and one note is missing in between them. So that is how we found the F note. In the next bar, let's actually see if we can read directionally. So we see that one note is missing between them on the way down. So this note is missing, so the next down is then a D. Next note is moving next step up and another step up. And by the way, why are we saying, okay, let's just finish one more note and then I'll ask you one more question. The last note of that bar is going down and it's again immediate next step. so that's an E. So we had A, F, D, E, F, and then E. Why do I keep referring to going up or down? And how do we know which direction is up and which direction is down? If you go from the middle C jumping lines to the right, you can see that the notes are getting higher, and that's why I refer to it as going up. The opposite direction, or to the left of the middle C, the notes are getting progressively lower, and that's why we refer to those notes as going down. Let's see now the left hand. And by the way, if you wanted to play correct rhythm, as well as the notes, there is a lesson that I have on the most common rhythmic figures that I will include the link below as well. So the left hand, the first note sits just under the first line. Why? Because we count from the top of the lines, from top to bottom. So this is your middle C. The first line is here, and therefore just under the first line is here, and that is a G note. What about the second note? It's under the second line. So 1, 2, and under makes it an E. Now the next note is different, and it's on the line, so you can either see it as the first line, and you know that you go up to A, or you could have counted how many notes are missing from the previous note, which was E. And you can see that 2 notes are missing in between them, so the next one is A. And then we're going down as a direction, and 1 note is missing, so we have to press F, and then you have next step down and 1 more step down. So just to recap, we had G at first, then E, A, and then F, E, and D. Let's see if we can figure out number 12. Now, do not worry that it has a sharp sign, and in the previous one we had a flat sign. I'm not actually going to include a sharp sign because I've not taught you this yet. So we're just looking at the notes, that direction, where they're going. We're looking to find them correctly on the piano as initial notes, and then see if we can play those melody lines, first in the left hand and then in the right hand in number 12. So number 12 begins with the left hand part. How do we know that? Because it is the bottom line of the 2, and when you play the piano, it doesn't actually matter what clef it is. The bottom line is always left hand, the top line is always right hand. Even if the clefs are both bass clefs or both treble clefs, it doesn't really matter. It will just indicate the direction of the notes in relation to the middle C, but the hand positioning is always going to be the same. So left hand is starting, and the first note is under the top line, so under the first line. So this is the first line from the middle C, and under it is a G. If you remember, it was the same note as we had in number 11. So what is happening next is we're going down 1 step at a time, and 1 more note down. Now in the next bar, can you recognize we're actually returning to the same G that we started on, and then 1 step up. And at this point, I would like to mention that the more you do this kind of directional reading and getting to know the lines and how to calculate the steps, you will actually find yourself memorizing certain notes. So for instance, it's been now 3 times we've played the G note, and it's under the first line. So at some point, your mind will just remember the position of the G note, and you will no longer need to count it this way. Now the right hand actually starts on the note just next to the middle C, so it's a D, or you could have seen it as under the first line, and if the first line is here, then under it is a D, and the next step is just next up, next note up. Then what is happening next? We're missing 1 note going upwards, so it will be an A, and in the last bar we're going 1 step lower to a G. So you can practice these 2 exercises, find other examples in the music, whatever music you can get, and see if you can really solid practice finding the notes, whether they're lines or in spaces, and then reading directionally, because this is the basis for all sort of notation reading, music reading, and piano playing. Even if you have a piece for playing hands together, try and see if you can learn separate parts first before merging the two hands. And I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye!